Here you are at 2 a.m., scrolling through your bank account for the third time this week, doing that mental math dance we all know too well. Rent is due in 5 days, your car payment just cleared, and you've got exactly $247 left until Friday. But instead of the usual panic, something feels different tonight, because tucked away in your investment account, there's a small but steady stream of money flowing in. Nothing crazy, just a consistent $1,000 every single month that you didn't have to trade your time for. And for the first time in years, you're not calculating whether you can afford groceries or wondering if that weird noise your car is making will bankrupt you next week. That extra $1,000 has done something strange to your brain. It's not that you're suddenly rich, but you're no longer broke. And there's a universe of difference between those two states that most people never get to experience. My name is Nick, and I've spent the better part of a decade obsessing over the invisible psychological triggers that separate people who struggle financially from those who sleep peacefully at night. If you've ever felt like you're one bad month away from disaster, or if you've wondered why some people seem to have this magical buffer that protects them from life's financial curveballs, stick around because we're about to dissect the most underrated milestone in personal finance. Today we're not talking about becoming a millionaire or retiring early or buying a Lamborghini. We're talking about something much more profound and achievable. We're talking about the moment when $1,000 in monthly passive income fundamentally rewires your relationship with money, risk, and opportunity. This is what I call the 1K rule, and once you understand it, you'll realize why this specific number acts like a psychological circuit breaker that changes everything about how you make financial decisions. Here's what most financial experts won't tell you because it's not sexy enough for their courses. The jump from zero passive income to $1,000 per month isn't just about the money, it's about crossing what psychologists call the anxiety threshold. Below this line, every financial decision is made from a place of fear and scarcity. Above it, you start making decisions from a place of possibility and calculated risk. The difference is staggering, and it explains why some people seem to effortlessly build wealth, while others work just as hard but stay trapped in the same financial patterns year after year. Let's be honest about what $1,000 a month actually represents. It's not life-changing money in the traditional sense. It won't pay for a luxury lifestyle or eliminate your need to work, but it will cover your basic survival needs if everything goes sideways. It's enough to pay for groceries, utilities, and maybe a modest rent in many parts of the country. More importantly, it's enough to quiet that primal voice in your head that's constantly calculating worst-case scenarios. When you know that $1,000 is showing up every month regardless of whether you're sick, fired, or dealing with a family emergency, your nervous system literally relaxes. You stop making decisions based on immediate survival and start making them based on long-term optimization. This shift is so subtle that most people don't even notice it happening, but it's the foundation upon which all sustainable wealth is built. The research backs this up in ways that should probably scare the traditional financial advice industry. Studies show that people with even modest passive income streams make dramatically different choices about career moves, investment risks, and business opportunities. They're more likely to negotiate salaries, switch jobs for better opportunities, and invest in higher risk, higher reward assets. Not because they're more confident people, but because they have a financial safety net that allows them to think beyond next month's bills. This is why the 1K rule is so powerful. It's not about the specific dollar amount, though $1,000 happens to be right around the threshold where these psychological changes kick in. It's about reaching the point where your passive income covers your basic anxiety triggers. For some people in lower cost areas, this might happen at $800 per month. For others in expensive cities, it might take $1,500. But for most Americans, $1,000 monthly passive income represents the crossing point from financial anxiety to financial possibility. Now, let's talk about why this specific milestone feels so much more achievable than the traditional wealth building advice you've been hearing. When financial gurus tell you to save $1 million for retirement, your brain immediately starts calculating. At $50,000 per year, saving $1 million means setting aside 20 years worth of salary. That feels impossible, so most people don't even start. But $1,000 per month in passive income, that's a different psychological game entirely. To generate $1,000 monthly through dividend-paying stocks, you'd need roughly $300,000 invested at a 4% annual yield. Still a big number, but significantly more approachable than $1 million. Through short-term rental properties or house hacking, you might achieve this with a $60,000 down payment on a $300,000 property. Through digital products, affiliate marketing, or business income streams, you could potentially reach this milestone with virtually no upfront capital, just time and skill development. The beauty of the 1K rule is that it gives you a concrete, achievable target that creates immediate psychological benefits. Every dollar of passive income you build toward this goal moves you further away from financial anxiety and closer to financial possibility. It's like climbing out of a hole where the first few feet make the biggest difference in how much sunlight you can see. But here's where most people mess this up, and it's so predictable that I can spot it from a mile away. They hit their first $100 or $200 in monthly passive income, and they immediately start lifestyle inflating. They treat it like found money and spend it on conveniences or luxuries. This completely defeats the psychological purpose of building passive income in the first place. The power of the 1K rule only works if you let that money accumulate and compound. When you have $1,000 per month coming in passively, the correct move is not to spend it on a nicer apartment or better car. The correct move is to reinvest it into building even more passive income. This is how you create the snowball effect that turns modest passive income into life-changing wealth. Think about the math for a second. If you're generating $1,000 per month and you reinvest it into assets yielding 8% annually, you're adding $12,000 per year to your investment base. That $12,000 compounding at 8% becomes roughly $250,000 after 13 years without adding another penny of your own money. That $250,000 at a 4% withdrawal rate generates over $10,000 per year, or about $860 per month. You've nearly doubled your passive income just by reinvesting the first stream. This is the secret that separates people who build lasting wealth from those who stay stuck at the same income level for decades. Wealthy people understand that the first goal isn't to increase their lifestyle, it's to increase their passive income streams. They live below their means not because they're cheap, but because they're strategic. Every dollar they don't spend on lifestyle inflation is a dollar that can be deployed to generate more passive income. The psychological shift that happens when you cross the $1,000 monthly threshold is profound, but it's also fragile. If you immediately lifestyle inflate to consume that income, you lose the psychological benefits. You're back to living paycheck to paycheck, just with a slightly higher baseline. But if you maintain your current lifestyle and let that passive income accumulate, something magical happens to your decision-making process. You start taking calculated risks because you have a buffer. You negotiate harder because you're not desperate. You invest more aggressively because you can afford to wait out market volatility. You make career moves based on growth potential rather than immediate salary needs. These behavioral changes compound just like your investments, creating an accelerating cycle of wealth building that most people never experience because they never cross the initial threshold. The most dangerous moment in your passive income journey isn't when you're broke and motivated. It's when you hit that first $1,000 monthly mark and your brain starts playing tricks on you. Because suddenly you feel rich. Not actually rich, but rich enough to justify that subscription service you've been eyeing, or the slightly nicer coffee beans, or the upgrade to premium everything because, hey, you're making money while you sleep now, right? This is where 90% of people sabotage themselves without even realizing it. They treat their first taste of passive income like a salary bump instead of what it actually is, the seed money for financial freedom. It's like finding a goose that lays golden eggs and immediately deciding to cook the goose for dinner because you're hungry right now. Let me show you the math that'll make you want to slap your past self for every dollar you've wasted on lifestyle inflation. That $1,000 monthly passive income represents roughly $300,000 in assets if we're talking traditional investments. But here's the kicker. If you reinvest that $1,000 every month instead of spending it, you're essentially adding $300,000 worth of purchasing power to your portfolio every single year without touching your salary. Most people work their entire careers trying to save $300,000. You can add that equivalent value annually just by not lifestyle inflating when you hit the 1K milestone. The compound effect of this decision is so massive that it's the difference between being comfortable in your 60s and being financially independent in your 40s. But let's get real about the emotional challenge here. When that first $1,000 hits your account, it feels like validation. Like, it feels like proof that you're finally winning at money. Your brain wants to celebrate. It wants to reward you for all those months of building and waiting and watching pennies trickle in. This is completely normal, and it's also completely destructive if you act on it. The wealthy understand something that broke people don't. The first $1,000 in passive income isn't the reward, it's the down payment on the reward. It's the entry fee to the game where real wealth gets built. When you spend that first stream of passive income, you're essentially paying $300,000 to feel slightly more comfortable for a few months. That's probably the most expensive coffee upgrade in human history. Here's what actually happens when you resist the urge to lifestyle inflate and instead reinvest that first $1,000 monthly stream. Year 1, you're generating $1,000 per month. Year 2, assuming you're reinvesting at reasonable returns, you might be generating $1,200 per month. Year 3, $1,500. By year 5, you could be looking at $2,500 monthly passive income. By year 10, if you've been disciplined about reinvestment, you might be generating $5,000 to $8,000 per month without adding a single dollar from your job. This is the exponential curve that most people never experience because they get off the ride at the first stop. They mistake the entrance to the amusement park for the main attraction. The $1,000 monthly milestone isn't the destination. It's the moment when you finally have enough fuel to reach escape velocity. The psychological warfare that happens at this stage is brutal. Your friends will notice you're making passive income and assume you can afford to pick up more dinner tabs. Your family might expect you to be more generous with gifts. You'll walk past stores and think, I can afford this now, even though affordability was never really the issue. The issue is whether buying it moves you closer to or further from financial freedom. This is where understanding the true cost of lifestyle inflation becomes critical. Every dollar you spend from that first $1,000 monthly stream has an opportunity cost of roughly $300 in assets. That monthly $50 restaurant habit, or you just traded $15,000 in future wealth for one dinner, that $200 monthly car payment upgrade, you're essentially choosing to be $60,000 poorer in the future for the privilege of driving something slightly shinier today. I'm not saying you should live like a monk forever. I'm saying you should understand what you're trading. Most people make these trades unconsciously, thinking they're just spending money they can afford to spend. But wealthy people think in terms of future value. They ask themselves, is this purchase worth delaying my financial independence by 6 months? Usually the answer is no. The real magic of the 1K rule kicks in when you start thinking about multiple streams, because once you've proven to yourself that generating $1,000 monthly passive income is possible, your brain starts seeing opportunities everywhere. That rental property you were too scared to consider becomes manageable. That digital product idea you shelved starts looking profitable. That side business you never launched suddenly seems worth the effort. This is the psychological tipping point where scarcity thinking transforms into abundance thinking. Before you hit $1,000 monthly, every financial decision feels like it could be the wrong one. After you cross that threshold and resist lifestyle inflation, every financial decision becomes an optimization problem rather than a survival calculation. The difference in decision-making quality is staggering. Scared money makes bad decisions, desperate people take terrible deals, anxious investors sell at the bottom and buy at the top. But people with a $1,000 monthly buffer can afford to be patient, strategic, and opportunistic. They can wait for the right deal, negotiate from a position of strength, and take calculated risks that broke people can't even consider. This is why the 1K rule isn't really about the money itself. It's about buying yourself the psychological space to make better long-term decisions. It's about transitioning from reactive financial behavior to proactive wealth building. Most importantly, it's about proving to yourself that passive income is real, achievable, and scalable. The pathway from $1,000 monthly to $10,000 monthly is much shorter than the pathway from $0 to $1,000. Once you've built the systems, developed the skills, and most importantly, rewired your psychology around passive income, scaling becomes a matter of execution rather than belief. You stop asking whether it's possible and start asking which strategy will get you there fastest. But none of this matters if you blow the first milestone by treating it like a salary increase instead of seed capital for your financial future. The 1K rule only works if you respect what that first $1,000 represents, not extra spending money, but the foundation of everything that comes next. The hardest part about crossing the $1,000 passive income threshold isn't the technical challenge of building the income streams. It's not figuring out dividend yields or rental property cash flows or creating digital products. The hardest part is convincing yourself that you deserve to keep the money, instead of immediately finding creative ways to spend it on things you've been depriving yourself of. Your brain has this fascinating ability to rationalize lifestyle inflation as financial responsibility. Suddenly, that $1,000 monthly stream justifies upgrading your phone plan because communication is important for business. It validates buying organic groceries because health is an investment. It makes perfect sense to get a gym membership you'll use twice because fitness affects productivity. Before you know it, you've mentally allocated every penny of passive income to pseudo-necessities that somehow didn't exist when you were broke. This psychological sleight of hand is so predictable that financial planners have a name for it: lifestyle creep. But calling it creep undersells how aggressive this process actually is. It's more like lifestyle sprint. The moment your brain detects additional cash flow, it immediately starts upgrading your identity to match your new income level. You're not just someone who makes passive income now, you're someone who deserves the lifestyle that passive income enables. The cruel irony is that this identity upgrade destroys the very thing that created the additional income in the first place. You stop being someone who prioritizes building wealth and become someone who prioritizes spending wealth. The habits that got you to $1,000 monthly get replaced by the habits that keep you at $1,000 monthly forever. Here's where understanding the true psychology of the 1K rule becomes critical. That first $1,000 in passive income doesn't just change your bank balance, it changes your nervous system's relationship with uncertainty. For most people, financial stress operates like background music in their lives. It's always there, humming quietly, affecting every decision even when they're not consciously thinking about money. When you know that $1,000 is showing up next month, regardless of what happens with your job, your health, or the economy, something fundamental shifts in your stress response. You stop operating from a place of constant low-level panic. Your decision-making improves because you're not always optimizing for immediate survival. This is the real value of the 1K milestone, and it's why protecting that income stream is so crucial. But let's be brutally honest about what this milestone doesn't do. It doesn't make you wealthy, it doesn't eliminate financial risk, it doesn't give you the lifestyle of the rich and famous. What it does is move you from the one emergency away from disaster category to the manageable setback category. Sorry, that psychological distance between financial catastrophe and minor inconvenience is worth far more than the actual dollar amount suggests. The tipping point psychology works because $1,000 monthly represents approximately 3 months of bare bones survival money for most people. It's not enough to live comfortably, but it's enough to not die. Your reptilian brain, which has been calculating survival probabilities since birth, suddenly relaxes just enough to let your higher order thinking take over. This is when you start making decisions based on opportunity rather than fear. The difference in decision quality is remarkable. Desperate people take the first offer. People with a buffer negotiate. Desperate people avoid risk entirely. People with a buffer take calculated risks. Desperate people think in terms of monthly cash flow. People with a buffer think in terms of long-term asset accumulation. The same person with the same intelligence and skills makes dramatically different choices depending on which side of the 1,000 threshold they're operating from. This is why wealthy families stay wealthy across generations. It's not just about the money they inherit, it's about inheriting the psychological state of having a buffer. They make decisions from a position of strength because they've never experienced the cognitive impairment that comes from financial desperation. They can afford to be patient, strategic, and opportunistic because they're not optimizing for immediate survival. Most people never get to experience this shift because they either never build passive income in the first place or they immediately consume it when they do. They mistake the psychological benefits for the financial benefits and optimize for feeling rich today instead of being rich tomorrow. It's like finding a map to buried treasure and immediately burning it for warmth because you're cold right now. The 1K rule isn't complicated math or some secret strategy the wealthy don't want you to know. It's simple psychology disguised as personal finance. Your first $1,000 in monthly passive income won't make you rich, but it will make you dangerous to the system that profits from your desperation. Protect that milestone like your financial life depends on it, because it does. If this video helped you see passive income differently, hit subscribe and start building your buffer. Your future self will thank you for refusing to burn the treasure map.